All right, we're on. We're going to make a video, the 6 signs of mental disintegration for the Liver King. I don't take any pleasure in going over the Liver King's demise. A lot of my students know who he is. He's kind of a creation of social media. I bring up the Liver King because my students are writing an essay. It's a response to a Jonathan Haidt article in The Atlantic. Why the last 10 years of American life have been uniquely stupid. And it's about how living in the fever swamp of social media has stupidified us. I guess I could use that word. I believe in about half of the essay, half of it I disagree with. I want to share something with you you might find fascinating. My students are between 18 and 20. They do not use social media. They don't use it. What they do with their smartphones is they text a lot. They text between 6 and 12 different regular people a day. So they are on their smartphones a lot. They are looking at TikTok videos. They're probably getting their news. They're getting information, entertainment on TikTok, but they're not curating their personal life, which is what I associate with when I think of Facebook. I'm thinking of boomers. Boomers are on Facebook sharing their stuff. It's kind of like the digital scrapbook. And then you have your Gen X is probably sharing on Facebook. Your millennials are sharing. But this new generation, they're really not into sharing. Maybe that's a good thing, because I do agree with Jonathan Haidt that social media is a fever swamp where all sorts of craziness begins. That's one thing I wanted to tell you. The other thing I want to share with you, a little curiosity, a little nuance in this discussion. One of my students, he told the class that he has friends who now I teach at a community college. This student says, I have friends who they go to these expensive four-year colleges, universities, and they do share. They do curate on social media. So there's some nuances in this discussion. But just for the record, I had 25 students in my class yesterday. 0 are curating anything on social media. Now, when I wanted to give my students an example of someone who represents the stupidification of social media, to give someone, my students, an illustration of someone who embodies the insanity that Jonathan Haidt talks about, I thought of the Liver King. I don't know how many of you guys know who the Liver King is. He's about 46 years old. His real name, I believe, is Brian Johnson. Takes enormous amount of steroids. It was revealed that he took about $11,000 worth of PEDs a month, while he was lying to his audience, saying, I am an ancestral bodybuilder, I do all this amazing stuff, I have this amazing body, and I don't take... I knew he was on them. I've worked out with bodybuilders in the 70s and 80s who are on them. I know what it looks like. Joe Rogan called him out before he was exposed. And what shocked me was he was making $100 million a year selling supplements, cow organs. He was eating cow organs on Instagram and YouTube. You know, you could not have a Liver King without social media. So this YouTuber named Jamari, gosh, he's young. Jamari's so young, he's so talented. I think he's 28 years old. He made a video about a week ago. It's not looking good for Liver King. And I watched it. And I did cringe. And I don't make this video with any pleasure. I don't have any gleeful schadenfreude about what I see in the Liver King. But let's just be clear. He could have walked away. Once he was exposed as a fraud, as a steroid-taking fraud who lied to sell products, supplements to his audience, he should have just disappeared and worked on it, creating a brand new dude. But he didn't do it. He's on social media trying to create sort of a Liver King 2.0 natural version. No one's buying it. By all accounts, he's still taking the juice, and he's aged rapidly. He looks unhinged. If I had to use one word to describe Liver King 2.0, he looks unhinged. If I had to come up with a second word, I would say desperate. So why does this guy who may have hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank, why does he allow himself to be making more social media content where he appears so rapidly aged, so rapidly unhinged, and so desperate? And I think I have 6 signs I want to share with you that reveal his mental disintegration. All right, number 1. I hate to say this, I don't say this with any pleasure, and I don't say it lightly, but the Liver King is a grifter. He's a fraudster, and he doesn't know any other lifestyle. He's not going to go back to college and get a degree and work for an honest living. He made a lot of money being a fraud. It's all he knows. And he was able to do this in social media. You know, social media is a land of make-believe. You could become whoever you want on social media. It's not what I want to do. For me, making a video, and for those of you who don't know me, I spend most of my videos talking about the watch obsession. And for me, a video is like an essay. I'm trying to take the chaos either that I have inside of me or that I see in the outside world, and I'm trying to give it shape in the form of an essay that gives me meaning in life and that gives me satisfaction, and that's what I do. In the case of Liver King, he's a grifter. Being a grifter is all he knows. And by grifter, I have to be harsh here, he's been cheating and lying to millions of people and making hundreds of millions of dollars. He doesn't know any other way to live his life. He doesn't have a plan B. He doesn't have a contingency plan. And I don't think he has the will to reinvent himself in any other way. I think the money came too easy for him. Number 2. Clearly, he doesn't need the money. So why is he still trying to be this online media presence? Because he's addicted to attention. His need for attention is a sign of his impoverishment and a sign of how lacking he is in a moral center and how unhinged he is. And this is not going to end well. If you're acting out for the social media algorithms, which is always extreme behavior, for attention, things don't end well. They don't look good. If you watch the video, and there's many of them, but Jamari has one that I mentioned earlier, he really is not, he's not looking good at all. He's aging rapidly. He's accelerating towards self-destruction. And his behavior is unhinged. There's nothing glorious about his ancestral doctrine, his ancestral gospel. He looks like a desperate man. Number 3, not only is he addicted to attention, but he's addicted to this persona he's created. He's created the persona of this Viking-like guy with a beard. He's eating raw organs. He's natural. He's connected to the earth. And it's really sad, you know, to go behind the curtain and see who he really is. He's really just a desperate, very small person. But man, he made a lot of money. Man, he did scale his popularity. He did use social media in a way that he could make hundreds of millions of dollars. And surely Jonathan Haidt is right when he says social media is this fever swamp and we can really become stupidified. To my students' credit, none of them ever were drinking the Kool-Aid of the Liver King. None of them. And I have a lot of young men in my class, and at no time did they ever drink his Kool-Aid. Let me get to the 4th sign. He confuses the attention he's now getting on social media with admiration. No, people are not looking at the Liver King because they admire him. I call this the rubberneck factor or the car crash factor. People are watching a car crash in motion. Now, I'm looking at it too, but only as an instructional cautionary tale. I take no pleasure in watching the Liver King. He has a wife, he has children, man. He's a human being. And when someone makes 100 million, you know, part of you just wants to have contempt and say, punish the fraudster. On the other hand, He's a human being with a family, and he appears to be on the road to self-destruction. And so, just from a human standpoint, you feel for him. Number 5. He lied and disrespected his audience. If you lie and disrespect other people, what that means about you is that you don't have respect for you. In other words, he's treating his own life with reckless disregard. His own life is being treated with reckless disregard. And what this means is the 6th and final sign of his mental disintegration. I don't see any moral, ethical, or common sense guardrails to his life right now. He's completely unhinged. He's going toward his self-destruction very quickly. I almost think there's a form of insanity. When you've been drinking your own Kool-Aid for so long, you begin to believe in the fraud that you're perpetrating on others. I suspect that part of him believes that he is this ancestral, natural, authentic liver king, when he's really not. I'm reminded of a tragic story. You guys are probably too young. There was a band named Milli Vanilli. And they were the 2 young men who got caught up in that music fraud where they were lip syncing. They were more the victims. It was actually the music producer who perpetrated the fraud. But I want to tell you something about Milli Vanilli. As I was watching the Showtime documentary about them, there was a point where they were drinking their own Kool-Aid and lip syncing and singing. They weren't really singing. They were performing. They thought they were really singing. That's psychotic. I wonder if the Liver King really thinks he's an evangelist for healthy living, as we watch him deteriorate before our very eyes. So he is 46 years old. He's someone who's leveraged social media to make hundreds of millions of dollars. I doubt he's making that now, but I suspect he has enough money to retire. But I don't think he's in a mind frame to peacefully retire. I think he is, if you see him on Jamari's video, he's unhinged, he's desperate, he's accelerating towards self-destruction, and I say this with no pleasure, but he does embody all of the characteristics that have made social media such a fever swamp, such a self-destructive fever swamp. And I tell you, man, when I look at that, I don't want any part of that fever swamp. If I'm going to be on social media, just as a lesson I'm learning from watching him, I want to be able to take the chaos of life and give it meaning, give it structure. And when I think of people who I admire, great comedians, George Carlin, Chris Rock, David Chappelle, they take the chaos, the freak show of life, and they find insight and irony, and they find shape and structure to it. And man, they're so good at it. And that's what gives me satisfaction. I would hope I would never, or my students or you would never become these fraudsters, these unhinged, desperate attention seekers. Social media is not going away. We're not going to put the toothpaste back in the tube. It's here. I think we can use it wisely. I think we can look at the Liver King as a cautionary tale. Ladies and gentlemen, tell me what we think. Until next time, I'm out.